I woke up to the vibration of my phone. The soft glow of the screen lit up her face, but she didn't move. Sleep still held me in its tight embrace, but an internal unease kept me awake. I turned onto my side and, through half-closed eyes, noticed short hair and a beard on the screen. A man. My heart froze. She quickly grabbed the phone and left the room, not giving me a second to comprehend what was happening. I heard her muffled voice in the hallway. "It's late. I'm sleeping. We'll talk tomorrow." She returned to bed, snuggled up to me as if nothing had happened. I lay silently, pretending to be asleep. In the morning, she said it was a random call from a colleague. But why did her voice tremble? Why didn't she show me the phone? I tried to convince myself that everything was fine. She's always honest. I have to trust her. But I couldn't forget that moment. Short hair, beard. A man. Questions swirled in my head. Who is he? Why did she go out into the hallway? I felt something invisible, heavy, hanging between us. I decided to stay silent. This time. But suspicion had already taken root and I knew it wouldn't leave me alone. The next day, I tried to act as usual. The usual morning rituals: coffee, shower, a quick kiss before work. But everything felt somewhat artificial, as if we were playing roles in a play that had lost its meaning. Her gaze slid past me, her words sounded slightly softer than usual. I tried to catch something special in it but found nothing. At work, my thoughts wandered. Colleagues discussed weekend plans, someone laughed at a joke. But in my mind, I kept seeing short hair, a beard. A man. I replayed the details of that night over and over as if it would change something. I was afraid to seem paranoid, afraid that my suspicions would destroy what we had built over the years. But the doubt wouldn't let go. I felt a cold chasm growing between us, one I couldn't cross. What if I'm wrong? What if the truth is far worse than my assumptions? These thoughts wouldn't leave me, piercing my mind like shards of ice. The next day, I waited for the right moment to bring it up again. But she was acting normal, smiling, making breakfast, asking if I remembered to buy milk. As if the night call had never happened. I didn't bring it up. Maybe it really was a colleague. Maybe I'm overthinking. But in the evening, when she was sitting on the couch with her phone in her hands, I noticed her face change. From relaxed to alert, as if something clicked in her thoughts. She quickly lowered the screen when I came closer. My heart pounded. I tried not to show my tension, but inside everything was boiling. "Who's that?" I asked with a smile. "Ha!" She looked up. "Oh, just Elena. She's having family issues. I'm supporting her." Elena. A friend from another city. I knew her. Cheerful, loud, always sharing her problems. But somehow it didn't feel like Elena on the other end. I moved closer, watching her hands. She nervously swiped the screen and locked the phone. "Everything all right?" I couldn't hide my concern. "Of course. She's just having trouble with her husband again. I don't understand how she puts up with it." I nodded, but the feeling of wrongness lingered. Why would Elena text at night? Why did her face change so suddenly from one message? When she fell asleep, I looked at her phone on the nightstand. The screen was dark, but it seemed to be breathing, holding its secrets. I didn't dare to pick it up. I'm not that kind of person. I won't go through her personal things. But that night, when the vibration sounded again, I knew something was happening. And I would have to find out what it was. The vibration came again at night. I propped myself up on my elbow. She was sleeping soundly, wrapped up to her chin. The phone glowed on the nightstand, and I saw the sender's name, Elena. My heart was pounding so loudly I feared it would wake her. The screen went dark again, but one detail stuck in my mind, a short text. "Are you awake? Thinking about us." About us? Why would Elena write that? Or is it not Elena? I quietly got up and headed to the kitchen to avoid making noise. The cold tiles made me shiver, but my mind was fogged. Who was that man whose face I saw? And why was Elena texting so strangely? As the water boiled for tea, my thoughts swirled like steam over the cup. I tried to remember if Elena had ever been that close to her, writing such messages. Never. That wasn't her style. And then it hit me, what if Elena was just a saved name? To hide the real one? I returned to the bedroom, trying not to make a sound. She was still sleeping peacefully. I watched her, trying to understand what was going on. I wanted to wake her, to ask directly. But the fear of hearing something I didn't want to know held me back. At dawn, she woke up earlier than usual. I pretended to be asleep. I heard her carefully pick up the phone and quickly type something. Her fingers barely touched the screen, as if afraid to wake a ghost. When she went to the bathroom, I lay staring at the ceiling. Elena. Thinking about us? Or was it him? A mix of rage and despair overwhelmed me. I had to find out the truth. But how when she shuts down at the slightest suspicion? Suddenly an idea crossed my mind, to check her laptop. She often forgets to log out of her accounts. Maybe I would find something there to dispel my doubts. On the living room table lay her laptop, half closed, as if hastily left behind. She had gone to the store, saying she'd be back soon. I stood before the screen, trying to decide whether to cross the boundary that had always seemed inviolable. My hands trembled slightly. One click and the screen lit up. I immediately saw that her account was open. A personal space, a forbidden zone. But the thought of the message wouldn't let me go. In the messenger, a name flashed, Elena. I clicked. The chat opened and I started reading. Usual conversations about kids, the weather, work. The lines blurred before my eyes until I stumbled upon one message: he must not suspect anything. Just be careful. I froze. What did that mean? Scrolling up, I found a few more lines: let me know in advance when you arrive. I miss you already. If you were here, everything would be easier. My mind feverishly tried to piece the puzzle together. Elena, or that man. Could she be using her friend's name as a cover? I checked the date of the last message. Yesterday. Late at night. Suddenly, I heard the front door lock click. I almost dropped the laptop. Quickly, I closed it and pretended to be sorting through books on the shelf. She walked in with bags, smiling. Hey, what are you doing? Just sorting through some old papers, I mumbled, trying to hide the trembling in my voice. She placed the bags on the table and took out some bread. I watched her slice it, avoiding eye contact. Inside, everything was boiling. I wanted to shout, "Why are you lying?" But the words stuck in my throat. I felt like I was on the edge. I didn't know what to do with this newfound truth. Should I confront her? Or wait for everything to reveal itself? But how much longer could I endure this uncertainty? I gathered my courage and asked directly. She wasn't expecting it, froze for a moment before replying. But her words didn't match what I already knew. The evening was tense. We sat across from each other at dinner, but the food had gone cold, as had our conversations. I didn't know how to start, but I couldn't keep quiet any longer. Hey, I broke the silence. You chat with Elena often, right? She looked up, slightly surprised. Yeah. She's going through a rough time. You know that. I nodded, trying not to show my worry. Do you text each other a lot? Almost every day, she replied, trying to smile, but her gaze briefly darted away. She just needs support. Does she call you often at night? I looked at her directly. Her hands froze for a moment. Well, sometimes when she feels really bad. Why? She tensed up as if sensing danger. Just. I paused. Yesterday there was a call from a colleague. She frowned, not answering right away. Yes. It was work-related. I told you. The silence that followed was thick like smog. I couldn't hold back anymore. Why does Elena send you such strange messages? She put down her fork, her eyes widening. What messages? Thinking about us. I watched her face change as if caught. She means herself and her husband. She quickly replied, but her voice went up an octave. They had a fight. She just needed to vent. I felt a cold detachment growing inside. Her answer was too quick, too calculated. She was lying. And she knew I understood that. The evening passed in strained silence. I went to bed earlier than she did, pretending to be tired. But I was actually waiting. Waiting for her to pick up the phone again, to text someone again. I knew the night would bring new secrets. Night enveloped the city like a heavy blanket. I lay on my side of the bed, back to her, eyes on the ceiling. Through the thick curtains, faint light from a street lamp cut the darkness into thin strips. I heard her breathing, even, calm. But I knew she wasn't asleep. The phone vibrated again. A barely audible sound from the nightstand, but to me it felt like a hammer blow. I held my breath, waiting for her reaction. She cautiously pulled the phone closer and, turning to the wall, started typing quickly. Elena? I asked, surprising even myself. She flinched and froze for a second. Yeah? Her voice was tense, like a string about to snap. She's not feeling well. I realized that I had to make a decision, either trust her or demand the truth. But fear held me back. I was terrified of destroying everything with one wrong word. Maybe we could talk to her together? I suggested, trying to keep my voice steady. No. She sat up abruptly. She's embarrassed by you. Feels uncomfortable. She turned off the screen and pretended to be sleepy. But I saw her shoulders tense up, her breath held. This wasn't caring about a friend. This was fear. I couldn't take it anymore and got up, saying I needed water. She didn't respond, not even turning around. I felt everything collapsing inside me, her lies slowly and mercilessly displacing the warmth that once bound us. In the kitchen, I opened the window and inhaled the cold night air. My fingers were shaking. I knew a crack had formed in her world, and that crack was swallowing us both. I wanted to slam the table, scream, but instead, I gritted my teeth, trying to keep control. When I returned to the bedroom, she appeared to be sleeping. Or pretending. I couldn't tell which hurt more, her silence or the realization that honesty was gone between us. I lay down next to her, and that lie lay between us like a cold barrier. I couldn't keep living in this hell of doubt. When she went to the store, I opened her laptop again, and what I found turned my life upside down. After the morning argument, the apartment felt dead. I heard her put on her coat and leave, slamming the door loudly. At first, I felt relief. The silence gave me a chance to gather my thoughts. But then a clear sense of emptiness came over me. I stood in the hallway, staring at her laptop left on the table. The thought of invading her personal space still made me feel disgusted, but desperation pushed me forward. Slowly, I approached, sat down, and opened the lid. The account was still unlocked. A new message blinked in the messenger. The name Elena. I opened the chat and my fingers turned cold. The message read, "Did you tell him after all? Or are we continuing as before?" A lump rose in my throat. Scrolling up, I found more evidence. "Shall we meet on the weekend? Is he leaving again? Don't worry, he won't suspect anything. Just stay calm." The profile picture showed a man. The same one with short hair and a beard. I clicked on his profile and saw her likes on every post, heart comments, and even a photo of them together against the backdrop of the evening city. She had commented under it, "Those evenings are the best of my life." A wave of emotions hit me: pain, rage, helplessness. I felt my body go numb. My hands trembled so much I had to press them against my knees. I closed the laptop and stood up, fighting the urge to smash it against the wall. The sound of keys in the lock made me flinch. She walked in with bags, setting them on the kitchen table. "Hi," she said cautiously, noticing my face. "Who is he?" I asked without lifting my gaze. "What do you mean?" There was a tense note in her voice. "The man with the beard. The one you text. The one you met." I exhaled slowly, trying not to lose control. She froze. Panic flashed in her eyes as if she'd been caught at the scene of a crime. Then a quick breath. "He's just a friend. Nothing serious." "You misunderstood. A friend." I laughed bitterly. "You call late-night calls and secret meetings friendship?" She stayed silent. Tears glistened on her lashes, but I didn't care anymore. I couldn't believe a single word. I walked past her into the hallway, grabbed my jacket, and stepped into the cold air of the staircase. Only outside did I realize I would never be the same person again. Everything changed the moment I saw the truth. I sat on a bench near the house, trying to process that my life was falling apart. But her voice behind me made me turn around. The evening chill seeped through my jacket, but I didn't notice it. I sat on the bench by the entrance, head down, trying to piece everything together. Questions tore at my mind. How long had this been going on? How did I not see it before? The entrance door creaked. I heard her steps, light and cautious. She stopped nearby but didn't sit down. Silence stretched out, heavy like a clouded sky. "Why didn't you come back?" Her voice was quiet, trembling. "Why should I?" I looked up at her. To listen to more lies? She lowered her head as if admitting guilt. I didn't want you to find out like this." "You didn't want me to find out?" My words came out sharp and angry. "You plan to hide it forever? I saw your photos, read your messages. Everything. You lied to my face." She sat down on the bench but kept a distance. I got confused. "It all started by accident. Just messaging. He supported me when you were on business trips." Her voice cracked. "I was lonely. Lonely. I didn't know whether to scream or stay silent. You could have talked to me. Why did you choose him?" Her shoulders slumped as if weighed down by my words. "I was afraid to admit to myself that I was missing something. You became so predictable, calm, and he reminded me of who I used to be." I felt something tear inside me, as if I had become a stranger in her world. "You wanted to feel young again? Thrilled? At the cost of our marriage?" She remained silent. I realized I didn't need answers anymore. She had made her choice long ago. I just hadn't seen it. I stood up and looked at her one last time. She tried to say something, but the words got stuck in her throat. I turned away and walked off, hearing her quiet sobs on the bench. At that moment, I realized I couldn't save her anymore. Neither her nor our relationship. I didn't know where I was going. I just kept walking forward, leaving behind everything I once called home. But her voice caught up with me once more. I stopped at an empty bus stop, trying to breathe steadily. My cold hands couldn't warm up in my pockets, and I felt lost in this gray city. I didn't know where to go. Home was no longer home. Behind me, I heard quick footsteps. She caught up with me, out of breath. "Please, listen to me," her voice broke as if through tears. I turned around. Her face was flushed from the cold, her eyes red. "What else can you say?" I asked, looking at her tiredly. She came closer but didn't dare touch me. I'm confused, she repeated, her voice trembling. I didn't want to lose you, but I couldn't stop myself. Why? My question was simple, but my voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me you weren't happy with me? She lowered her head as if she didn't know the answer herself. You've always been so reliable. Calm. And I started to fear that I didn't feel alive anymore. He just showed up when I was on the edge. And me? I asked, holding back the pain. I was always there. She looked into my eyes. I know. And that's the scariest part. I didn't even realize when I lost you. We stood in silence. I knew I was waiting for her to say something that could bring back the past, erase the pain. But those words didn't exist. You understand that everything's broken, right? I said. I won't be able to forget this. Her tears dripped onto the pavement. She wanted to say something, but I raised my hand, stopping her. Don't make excuses. Just let me go. She nodded, not trying to follow me anymore. I took a step back, then another, feeling that with each movement I was letting her go. Or maybe she was letting me go. When I walked far enough not to hear her sobs anymore, I realized the freedom I had wanted so much felt cold and lifeless. But I knew that if I stayed, I would never be able to forgive. I kept walking forward without looking back. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I was living for myself. Without lies, without her nighttime secrets. Just living. She stayed behind at the bus stop and I walked into the night to find a new path, a new meaning. Now it was up to me to decide what my life would look like.